Welcome to Nightmare Lullabies. Here, we bring you chilling tales to keep you on edge while helping you unwind. If you enjoy our stories, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Got a creepy story of your own? Share it in the comments below. We might feature it in a future video. Now, sit back, relax, and let the story begin. The night had a quiet, almost hypnotic quality. A silence punctuated only by the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant murmur of a sleeping town. In the solitude of her small, dimly lit apartment, Emma found herself unable to sleep. The familiar embrace of night usually brought rest, but tonight, something was different. It was as if the dark held secrets too delicate to be spoken aloud. Emma sat by her window, watching the silver glow of the moon caress the streets below. As she sipped her lukewarm tea, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper drifted through the stillness. At first, she dismissed it as the wind, but the words carried a familiarity, a cadence that tugged at memories she couldn't quite place. "Remember me." The voice was tender and elusive, like a lullaby from a time long past. Emma's heart quickened, and her thoughts began to drift into the recesses of dreams and forgotten moments. She closed her eyes, willing herself to return to that peaceful place of sleep, yet the voice persisted, growing clearer with each passing minute. In her dreams, she found herself walking along a quiet, narrow street lined with old lampposts that glowed with a warm, inviting light. The air was cool and carried the scent of blooming night jasmine. As she strolled, a series of vignettes from a past she couldn't fully remember played out around her. There were fleeting images, a child's laughter echoing in a courtyard, a door opening to reveal a room bathed in golden light, and faces that were both familiar and strangely distant. Each step seemed to stir up more fragments of a life that belonged to someone else, or perhaps a version of herself she had long forgotten. The whispered refrain followed her along the path, its soft cadence guiding her deeper into the labyrinth of her subconscious. "Remember me," it repeated, like a plea from an old friend or a long-lost lover. In the waking world, Emma tossed and turned in bed. She could not shake the feeling that her dreams were intruding into her reality, rewriting the narrative of her life. Morning came, and the first light of dawn revealed a series of subtle changes in her apartment. A framed photograph on the mantelpiece now displayed a scene she did not recall choosing. The image was of a young girl with bright, inquisitive eyes standing beside a towering oak tree, yet Emma was certain that picture had never been in her collection. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, she began to retrace the events of her dreams. Venturing out into the day, Emma wandered the familiar streets of her neighborhood. She passed the old park where the whispering voice seemed to echo among the rustling branches, and the vintage bookstore where, as she recalled, she had once discovered a love for stories of wonder and mystery. But now, every corner held a suggestion that her memories were shifting, like delicate layers of paint being gently scraped away and reapplied in a different pattern. Late in the afternoon, Emma found herself drawn to an abandoned building on the edge of town. A structure that time had forgotten. The building's facade was draped in ivy, its windows dark and hollow. It was here, in the quiet of this decaying monument, that she felt the presence of that mysterious voice more strongly than ever. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the scent of damp earth and old paper. Emma's footsteps echoed softly on the worn floorboards as she explored room after room. In one dusty parlor, she discovered a diary bound in faded leather. The pages were brittle, yet the ink was remarkably vivid, as if the author had poured every bit of their soul into the words. As she read, a chill ran down her spine. The diary recounted events and emotions that mirrored her own life, but with details that were unmistakably different. Names, dates, and places overlapped with her memories, yet they twisted into an alternate tapestry that defied explanation. The diary ended with a final, haunting entry. "When dreams and memories entwine, the whispers will reveal the truth. Do not fear the rewriting, for the forgotten may yet hold the key to who we truly are." That night, Emma returned home, the diary clutched tightly in her hands. In the quiet solitude of her room, she sat at her desk and opened the diary once more. The soft whisper returned, clearer now, as if it had been waiting patiently for her to listen. It spoke not in a language of commands, but in gentle invitations. "Step beyond the veil, Emma, and remember the love that has been lost, the pain that has been hidden, and the joy that lies in rediscovery." Tears welled in her eyes as she realized that the voice was not a harbinger of fear, but a guide, It beckoned her to embrace the full spectrum of her experiences, even those that had faded into oblivion. With each word, the line between her waking life and her dreamscape blurred further, until she could no longer tell where one ended and the other began. That night, Emma surrendered herself to sleep with a newfound sense of acceptance. As she drifted off, the gentle cadence of the voice became her lullaby. In the realm of dreams, she revisited moments she had long forgotten. A warm embrace from a beloved relative, the laughter of friends gathered around a flickering fire, and the bittersweet farewells of lost love. These memories, though once shrouded in the mists of time, now shone with a quiet, comforting light. In a particularly vivid dream, Emma found herself back in the familiar setting of her childhood home. The walls were adorned with photographs and mementos of happier times, and the gentle hum of a piano filled the air. Yet in the background she heard the whisper once more, soft, persuasive, and filled with an emotion she could only describe as tender longing. As she approached the grand piano, the keys began to play on their own, each note resonating with the echoes of her past. The music told a story of loss and remembrance, urging her to reclaim the forgotten pieces of her soul. The following morning, Emma awoke with a serene smile. The dreams had left an indelible mark on her heart, gently rewriting the narrative of her life with layers of understanding and compassion. She rose, feeling as though she had been given a precious gift, a chance to reconnect with parts of herself that had been obscured by the relentless march of time. The whispered voices, once a source of quiet dread, had transformed into guiding stars leading her toward wholeness. In the days that followed, Emma found herself embracing the subtle shifts in her memories. The photograph of the young girl by the oak tree was now a cherished reminder of the innocence and wonder that had once defined her childhood. The diary, with its heartfelt confessions, became a treasured link to a past that, although altered, was undeniably a part of her. And every night, as the moon rose and the world fell silent, the whisper returned, not to unsettle her, but to cradle her in a gentle embrace of understanding. For in the realm where dreams and memories converge, Emma learned that the act of remembering is both a reclamation and a release. The whispers of the forgotten were not meant to erase the pain of lost time, but to celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. They were an invitation to trust in the fluidity of life, where each memory, whether recalled perfectly or altered by the soft brush of dreams, held its own quiet truth. And so, under the watchful glow of the moon and the tender murmur of ancient voices, Emma continued her journey, a journey of rediscovery, where every whisper carried a promise of renewal, and every forgotten memory was a stepping stone toward a deeper, more profound understanding of who she truly was. The rain fell in a soft, steady cadence against the window, each drop a gentle tap like a secret shared in hushed tones. On a quiet evening, in a small town known for its winding cobbled streets and timeless charm, Alex wandered into an old curiosity shop. The air inside was heavy with the scent of aged paper and memories of yesteryear. In the midst of dusty trinkets and faded photographs, a gleaming antique mirror caught Alex's eye. Its ornate frame, carved with delicate patterns and mysterious symbols, seemed to pulse with a silent invitation. Drawn irresistibly toward it, Alex purchased the mirror, feeling an inexplicable connection to the object. That night, in the solitude of a modest apartment, Alex set the mirror against a wall bathed in the soft glow of a table lamp. With the quiet of the night as a backdrop, a sense of anticipation filled the room, an unspoken promise of revelations yet to come. As midnight crept closer, the mirror began to reflect more than just the faint outline of the room. At first, it was a subtle shimmer at the edge of the glass, a ripple that made Alex pause. Leaning in, Alex watched as the reflection shifted, and for a brief moment, a scene from another time flickered into view. It was a glimpse of a lively parlor bathed in golden light, a scene that felt both familiar and impossibly distant. The images were so vivid that Alex could almost hear the gentle laughter of guests and the soft clink of fine china. The next few nights, the mirror's secrets grew bolder. Each time Alex looked into it, the reflection offered fragments of memories that did not belong. In one vision, an elegant woman in a flowing gown glided across a ballroom, her eyes filled with both joy and sorrow. In another, a young man with an earnest smile handed over a single red rose to someone unseen, a moment charged with tender emotion. Alex felt a peculiar stirring within, as if these scenes were parts of a story that had been long forgotten, but was now being whispered back into existence. At first, Alex dismissed these visions as mere dreams, fleeting imaginings born from a tired mind. But as the images began to intrude upon waking moments, it became impossible to ignore their power. Conversations with friends and family became tinged with confusion. Details of past events seemed to shift, as though someone was editing the very fabric of memory. The reflection in the mirror was no longer a silent observer. It was, in its own mysterious way, communicating, a language of images and emotions that beckoned Alex to uncover a hidden truth. One rainy evening, compelled by a mix of trepidation and determination, Alex decided to confront the mirror directly. Standing before it in the dim light of a single candle, Alex spoke softly. "Who are you? What do you wish to show me?" The room was filled with a hush so deep that even the raindrops seemed to pause outside. For several long, suspended moments, nothing happened. Then, as if in response, the mirror began to glow with a gentle luminescence. The glass rippled like water, and slowly, an image emerged, a scene of a grand manner in a bygone era. In this vision, Alex saw a younger version of themselves dressed in attire from a time that had long since passed. The younger self stood in a lavish hallway, surrounded by family and friends whose faces were etched with warmth and affection. But something was amiss. The laughter in the scene was edged with sorrow, and the eyes of those gathered hinted at secrets that were never spoken aloud. The vision pulsed with a bittersweet melody, as if each note carried both a promise of love and a warning of loss. Tears welled in Alex's eyes as the mirror's images revealed the possibility that the life once lived, rich with both beauty and heartbreak, had been concealed or perhaps even altered by the passage of time. The mirror, with its otherworldly clarity, seemed to be urging Alex to reclaim a past that had been obscured by the mundane march of everyday life. It was as if the reflection held the power to restore forgotten truths, to piece together the shattered fragments of a personal history that had been lost in the depths of time. In the days that followed, Alex began to search for clues about the manor, the people in the visions, and the secrets they harbored. Old letters, faded photographs, and whispered stories from distant relatives all converged into a tapestry that defied easy explanation. The more Alex learned, the clearer it became that the mirror was not merely a passive object. It was a conduit to an alternative narrative, one where past and present intermingled, and memories were as fluid as water. One quiet night, with the mirror aglow in the corner of the room, Alex sat with an open journal, writing down every detail that the visions had imparted. The act of recording each memory felt like an offering, a way to honor both the known and the mysterious aspects of the self. In the soft lamplight, the mirror's surface shimmered, and for a fleeting moment, Alex saw not just the reflection, but a comforting presence, as if an unseen guardian was offering reassurance and guidance. As time went on, the line between what was real and what was illusion blurred further. The mirror's nightly revelations became a cherished part of Alex's world, a gentle ritual that bridged the gap between forgotten memories and the life lived in the present. Each vision, though tinged with melancholy, also carried a message of hope and redemption. It was an invitation to embrace every facet of the past, to accept the beauty in both joy and sorrow, and to understand that every reflection held its own truth. On a final, quiet night, as a soft breeze rustled the pages of the open journal, Alex looked deeply into the mirror one last time. The reflection now showed a serene face, a face that had weathered the trials of time and emerged wiser, yet still filled with wonder. The images faded gently, leaving behind only the soft echo of a melody and a sense of peaceful resolution. In that moment, Alex realized that the mirror's purpose was not to rewrite history, but to reveal the layers hidden beneath, to remind us that every life is a mosaic of light and shadow. And so, under the soft glow of twilight and the ever-present murmur of memories, Alex embraced the journey that the mirror had unveiled. Each night, as the world grew quiet and the veil between dreams and reality thinned, the mirror continued to whisper its silent secrets, a timeless dialogue between the past and the present, inviting all who dared to look within to discover the truth that lay just beyond the surface. The town of Millhaven was a place that time seemed to have forgotten, a quiet hamlet where narrow lanes wound between time-worn cottages and the fog clung to every surface like a silken shroud. Every evening, as dusk settled over the town, a thick, pearly mist would roll in from the distant hills, softening the edges of reality and inviting the imagination to wander. Mara, the town librarian, had always been drawn to the quiet magic of Millhaven. Her days were spent among dusty shelves and whispered stories, and each evening she would return home with the comforting rustle of pages and the gentle aroma of old books lingering in the air. Yet, as the fog descended that autumn, Mara began to notice that something was different, an undercurrent of mystery that seeped into her dreams and her waking moments alike. It began on a night much like any other. Mara had closed the library late in the afternoon and was walking home under the soft glow of a street lamp. The fog was unusually dense, transforming the familiar cobblestones into a landscape of shifting shadows. As she neared her little cottage on the edge of town, she felt as though the mist itself was watching her, a silent observer in the quiet darkness. That night, as Mara settled into her favorite armchair with a cup of herbal tea, the whisper of the fog crept into her dreams. In the realm between sleep and waking, she found herself wandering along the foggy streets of Millhaven. The town appeared transformed, buildings took on a ghostly luminescence, and the outlines of trees blurred into abstract shapes. In this dreamscape, every step was accompanied by a subtle echo, as if unseen voices recited fragments of memories long lost. Mara's dreams became increasingly vivid. She would awaken with the lingering sensation that the voices of the fog were trying to tell her something. Sometimes they spoke in gentle murmurs, recalling the laughter of a child playing near the old mill, or the soft rustle of a lover's whisper beneath a willow tree. Other times, the voices were sorrowful, recounting tales of loss and longing that made her heart ache with a bittersweet familiarity. The following days, subtle changes began to manifest in Millhaven itself. As Mara tended to her daily routines at the library, she noticed that certain details did not quite match her recollections. A portrait in the town hall, once smiling and bright, now seemed to wear a wistful expression. An old clock tower, which had always struck a cheerful hour, now tolled with a solemn, almost mournful tone. At first, Mara dismissed these anomalies as tricks of the light, or perhaps products of her overactive imagination, fueled by the dreams that haunted her nights. One misty evening, unable to quell the persistent curiosity that tugged at her heart, Mara decided to follow the pull of the fog. Clad in a soft, woolen shawl, she stepped out into the twilight, determined to trace the origin of the gentle voices that had begun rewriting her sense of reality. The town was enveloped in a silence so deep that even the usual creaks of old buildings seemed hushed. With each careful step along the deserted lane, the fog thickened, swirling around her ankles like liquid silver. As she ventured further, Mara arrived at a part of town where the fog was densest, a forgotten garden tucked behind an abandoned estate. The garden, once a place of lively gatherings and vibrant blooms, now lay dormant, its paths overgrown with wild ivy and its statues half swallowed by nature. Here, the whispers of the fog grew clearer, almost as if the very air was reciting an ancient lullaby. Standing amidst the rustling ferns and dewy petals, Mara closed her eyes and listened. The voices spoke of memories, of days when the garden had been filled with light and laughter, when secrets were shared beneath the open sky, and when every corner held a promise of discovery. The gentle cadence of the words caressed her, drawing forth images of forgotten joys and silent sorrows. It was as if the garden itself had become a repository of all that was cherished and lost in Millhaven's long history. In that enchanted moment, Mara understood that the fog was more than a natural occurrence. It was a bridge between past and present, a medium through which the town's collective memory whispered its truth. The dreams she had been experiencing were not mere illusions, but echoes of Millhaven's heart, reshaping the way its people remembered their own lives. The realization was both comforting and profound. Mara returned to the library with a renewed sense of purpose. She began to compile old records, letters, and photographs, each artifact a delicate thread in the intricate tapestry of Millhaven's history. Every night, as the fog rolled in and the voices began their soft recitations, she would sit by her window and record the murmurs, transcribing them like gentle poetry into a leather-bound journal. Weeks passed, and the fog continued to visit, bringing with it the tender murmur of memories and the soft murmur of hidden stories. Mara's work began to attract attention. Townsfolk would come forward with their own recollections, surprised at how certain details had changed over time. How a beloved family tale was suddenly painted with the hues of a forgotten emotion. There was talk, too, of moments when the past seemed to blend seamlessly into the present, when the echo of a lost voice would provide solace or spark a long-dormant hope. One particularly still night, as a full moon bathed the world in silver light, and the fog lay thick over Millhaven, Mara experienced a dream unlike any other. In this vision, she found herself in the very heart of the old garden. The air was filled with the delicate scent of night-blooming flowers, and a soft luminescence bathed the path ahead. Standing before her was a figure, a woman clothed in flowing garments that shimmered like stardust. Her eyes, deep and knowing, met Mara's with a tenderness that transcended time. "Remember," the woman whispered, her voice like the soft rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze. "Every memory, every shadow in the fog is a piece of your soul. Embrace them, and let them guide you home." In that moment, Mara felt an overwhelming sense of unity, a merging of her own story with the collective memory of Millhaven. The dreams, the whispers, and the ever-present fog had all led her to this quiet truth: that the past was not something to be feared or forgotten, but a cherished tapestry woven from the threads of every life that had ever graced the town. As the dream faded and the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, Mara awoke with a serene smile. The whispers of the fog had left their gentle imprint on her heart, transforming uncertainty into quiet resolve. With the soft light of morning filtering through her window, she gently closed her journal, now filled with the tender poetry of Millhaven's memories. From that day forward, the fog no longer carried an air of mystery and unease. Instead, it was a nightly reminder, a soft, comforting veil that connected the hearts of the townspeople to their rich, interwoven past. And every evening, as the mist settled over the cobbled lanes, Mara would light a small candle in the library's reading nook, inviting the whispers of the fog to tell their stories once more. Under the gentle watch of the fog and the murmured echoes of forgotten dreams, Millhaven and its people learned that every shadow held a story, and every soft voice was a reminder of the beauty found in remembering. The soft hum of hospital machinery was the only sound that accompanied Daniel during the long, silent nights in his recovery room. After the accident that had altered his life so drastically, sleep had become both a refuge and a source of strange visions. Each time he closed his eyes, the barrier between present and past blurred, allowing memories, or perhaps echoes of another life, to seep through. In the early days of his convalescence, Daniel's dreams were muted and vague, like whispers carried on a distant wind. He would awaken with a fleeting sensation of déjà vu, a feeling that the gentle murmur of a familiar lullaby or the delicate aroma of an old, cherished meal had once belonged to him. At first, he dismissed these moments as the natural residue of trauma and time, fragments of a mind piecing together survival from chaos. But as the days turned into weeks, the dreams grew more vivid. In one dream, Daniel found himself standing on a sunlit cobblestone street lined with quaint shops, where the sound of soft chatter and the tinkling of a distant bell filled the air. In another, he wandered through a warmly lit home where a family gathered around a table, their laughter and gentle voices intertwining with a sense of deep familiarity. Every detail, the texture of the worn wooden floors, the soft glow of a lamplight, even the color of the vintage wallpaper, seemed to resonate with an intimacy that his current life could not explain. Night after night, the dreams became his silent teachers. In his sleep, he lived moments of love, loss, and quiet resilience. He saw a younger version of himself in a life filled with both beauty and heartache, a life that felt as real as the steady beep of the heart monitor that accompanied him during the day. The echoes of this lost life were so precise that they began to creep into his waking hours. A phrase overheard in the corridor, a scent that lingered in the air, even a fleeting glimpse of a familiar face in the hospital's mirror. All of these stirred questions within him. Who was he before the accident? Could these visions be more than mere dreams? One quiet evening, as a gentle rain pattered against the windowpane of his room, Daniel decided to confront the growing disquiet. He reached for an old leather journal he had found among his belongings, a relic from before the accident. Sitting up in bed, he opened the journal and began to write down every detail of his dreams. The act of recording these moments brought a surprising comfort, as if he were stitching together pieces of a puzzle he had long forgotten existed. As he wrote, the room seemed to fall into a tender hush, and the soft sound of rain merged with the whisper of his pen on paper. In the dim glow of a bedside lamp, the words formed an intricate tapestry of memories that felt both his own and not his own. He described a scene where he was dancing under twinkling fairy lights in a garden filled with the scent of roses, a moment so vivid it nearly made him weep. In another entry, he recounted a quiet afternoon spent by a riverbank, watching sunlight dance on the water, a memory of calm and reflection that he was certain had been real in another time. The more Daniel documented these visions, the more he noticed subtle shifts in his present life. Colleagues and friends mentioned details about his past that did not quite match the reality he remembered. Photographs on his shelf now seemed to capture moments he could scarcely recall living. The line between his recovered memories and the dreamlike episodes began to blur. Was he losing his mind, or was there a hidden truth waiting to be unveiled? One night, after writing in his journal for what felt like hours, Daniel found himself drifting into a particularly vivid dream. In this dream, he was in a grand, sun-dappled room filled with the soft strains of a piano playing a melancholy melody. In the center of the room stood a figure, an older man with gentle eyes and a knowing smile. The man beckoned Daniel closer, and as he approached, the room seemed to ripple with the warmth of long-forgotten recollections. "Listen carefully," the man whispered, his voice tender as if echoing from the depths of time. "These echoes are not to erase who you are, but to remind you of who you might have been, a soul with a story that transcends a single lifetime. Embrace the memories, and let them guide you to the truth within." As the words echoed through the dream, Daniel felt a stirring deep inside, a recognition of something precious and profound. The figure faded slowly into the golden light, leaving Daniel with a promise of answers that lay beyond the veil of sleep. Waking from the dream, Daniel lay in bed with his heart both heavy and uplifted. The visions no longer filled him with dread, but with a cautious hope. They were not phantoms meant to haunt him, but gentle reminders that every life, every memory, even those that seem lost, holds meaning and purpose. He resolved to continue his journey of discovery, to let the echoes of the lost life guide him to a fuller understanding of himself. In the weeks that followed, Daniel became both an observer and a participant in the interplay between memory and dream. With every new vision, he felt a growing acceptance of the past's complex tapestry. The journal he kept became a cherished record of this intimate exploration, a testament to the idea that identity is not confined to the present alone, but is a mosaic of experiences, both remembered and reimagined. Slowly, the hospital room transformed from a place of confinement into a sanctuary of introspection. The steady rhythms of daily care and the soft cadence of his dreams intermingled, creating a gentle harmony that soothed his soul. Even as he prepared for the day's therapy sessions, Daniel found solace in the quiet moments of reflection, a silent promise that every whisper from his lost past was a step toward reclaiming the fullness of who he truly was. And so, beneath the soft glow of night and the comforting patter of rain against the window, Daniel embraced the echoes of a life once lived. He no longer feared the blurring of memories. Instead, he welcomed the possibility that his identity was a living, breathing narrative, one that spanned not only the fragile present, but also the delicate, dreamlike remnants of a past that still whispered secrets in the quiet of his sleep. As the days turned into months, the line between his waking life and the dreamscape became a gentle continuum, a reminder that every heartbeat carries with it the cadence of countless stories. In accepting the echoes of a lost life, Daniel discovered that true healing is found not in the erasure of pain or forgetfulness, but in the delicate art of remembrance, a soft, enduring melody that plays on, long after the echoes have faded into the night. It began on a night much like any other, a night filled with the soft whispers of wind against the window and the gentle lull of distant traffic. In a modest, warmly lit home on the outskirts of a sleepy town, Alex lay in bed, surrendering once again to the embrace of sleep. But unlike most nights, when dreams came softly and faded upon waking, this night carried with it a quiet summons, a call from the depths of a forgotten past. Alex had long struggled with sleepwalking, an odd quirk that transformed nights into mysterious journeys beyond the confines of the familiar bedroom. For years, these nocturnal wanderings were mere curiosities, brief escapes into a world of shifting corridors and ethereal landscapes. Yet recently, the sleepwalking had taken on a new, inexplicable quality, as if each step carried deeper meaning and each shadow a message waiting to be understood. That night, as the clock ticked quietly toward midnight, Alex felt an irresistible pull to rise from bed. The cool air of the early hours kissed the skin as they slipped silently from the room. Without any conscious recollection of leaving the bed, Alex found themselves standing in a corridor that was both their own home and something entirely other, a place where the familiar walls seemed to breathe with the soft rhythm of memories. The corridor was lit by a muted glow that emanated from antique sconces, their flickering light casting gentle patterns upon the worn wooden floor. Each step echoed softly, a tender cadence in the hush of the night. As Alex moved forward, the hallway began to transform. Photographs that once depicted moments of a long-cherished past now morphed into hazy scenes. Images of a childhood home with faded wallpaper and a garden overgrown with wild roses, scenes that Alex had never quite remembered before. In a dreamlike state, Alex wandered through this surreal version of their old home. The rooms shifted subtly with every step. A parlor that once hosted lively family gatherings now lay cloaked in a quiet melancholy, and a sunlit kitchen held an unfamiliar warmth, its counters adorned with remnants of a meal long prepared. It was as if the house itself was a canvas, upon which the brushstrokes of a forgotten life were being gently reapplied. A particular room beckoned, a narrow staircase leading upward into a soft, ambient glow. With cautious determination, Alex ascended, each step echoing with the sound of distant chimes. At the top, they emerged into a space that felt simultaneously vast and intimate, a long hallway lined with doors, each one slightly ajar, as if inviting exploration. Drawn to a door at the very end, Alex reached out and turned the brass knob with a hesitant touch. Inside, the room was bathed in a pale, silvery light. Dust motes danced lazily in the air, and a large, ornate mirror dominated one wall. In the mirror's reflection, Alex saw not just their current self, but fleeting images, a collage of moments, emotions, and faces from a time that seemed both distant and intimately familiar. There was the joyful laugh of a younger version of themselves, the soft smile of a long-gone loved one, and even the hint of a secret that had been buried deep within their heart. As Alex stood transfixed, a soft, almost imperceptible sound filled the room, a murmur like a gentle lullaby from the past. The sound grew into a comforting cadence, each note resonating with the rhythm of a life once lived. It was as if the room itself was alive with memories, whispering forgotten truths and urging Alex to remember what had been lost. In that tranquil moment, time appeared to slow. The boundaries between sleep and waking blurred, and Alex found themselves immersed in a rich tapestry of recollections. Each memory was like a delicate thread, weaving together moments of joy, sorrow, triumph, and quiet resignation. The soft hum of a piano, the rustle of a familiar scarf, and even the faint scent of old books and fresh rain. All these sensations converged into a profound, soothing symphony that enveloped Alex's soul. Slowly, a realization began to take root. The sleepwalking journeys were not merely random wanderings, but a pathway to reconnect with the depths of a hidden past. They were invitations to revisit the chapters of life that had been obscured by the relentless pace of the waking world. With every step, every whispered echo in the silence, Alex was being guided to reclaim the fragments of their identity that lay dormant, waiting to be rediscovered. In the mirror's gentle glow, Alex saw an older, wiser version of themselves, a reflection that bore the marks of time, yet shone with an inner light of understanding. The images in the mirror shifted slowly, offering fleeting glimpses of a life rich with unspoken stories and quiet revelations. There was the memory of dancing barefoot on dewy grass under a starlit sky, the tender touch of a friend's hand during moments of despair, and even the bittersweet farewell of a love that had transcended time. Embracing the sense of wonder, Alex closed their eyes and let the murmurs of the past wash over them. In that deep, meditative state, the soft boundaries between dream and memory dissolved entirely. Every detail, no matter how small, became imbued with significance. The creak of the floorboards, the delicate flutter of a moth's wings near the window, and even the slow, measured tick of an old clock were all part of a larger, unfolding narrative that spoke of healing, acceptance, and the eternal nature of the soul. Eventually, the mirror's images receded as dawn's first light began to filter through the window. The sleepwalking journey drew to a close, and Alex found themselves gently returning to the comfort of their bed, the echoes of the night's revelations still humming softly in their mind. They awoke with a sense of calm and clarity that was both surprising and deeply comforting, a quiet certainty that the mysterious journey was not a cause for alarm, but a gentle reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. Over the days that followed, the memories uncovered during the nocturnal journey continued to influence Alex's waking life. Moments of unexpected clarity emerged, a long-forgotten song playing on the radio, a familiar phrase whispered in conversation, or the comforting sight of a cherished object that suddenly held new meaning. These gentle reminders served as stepping stones, guiding Alex toward a deeper understanding of their own identity, a mosaic composed of every dream, every whispered secret of the past. In the soft glow of evening, as night once more cloaked the world in quiet shadows, Alex would sometimes find themselves drawn back to the threshold of that hidden realm. They began to keep a small journal by the bedside, recording the subtle impressions and feelings that emerged from their sleepwalking journeys. Each entry was a tender ode to the intricate dance between memory and dream, a celebration of the fragments that together formed the story of who they were. And so, under the watchful silence of the moon and the gentle murmur of a world reawakening with each new night, Alex embraced the sleepwalker's journey as a sacred rite, a nightly pilgrimage into the heart of their own being. The journey was a quiet invitation to trust in the unseen, to find beauty in the mysterious interplay between what is remembered and what is yet to be discovered. In that timeless space where dreams merge with waking life, Alex learned that every step taken in the quiet darkness was a step toward reclaiming a part of the soul. A part that, no matter how lost or hidden, would always be there, waiting patiently to be remembered. In the heart of a bustling city that never truly slept, Elena found herself caught in the relentless cadence of modern life. By day, she was a dedicated professional, juggling endless meetings, deadlines, and the constant hum of urban chaos. Yet, when night fell, the city's bright lights softened into a gentle glow, and the cacophony of the day faded into a quiet murmur. It was in these twilight hours that Elena began to experience something entirely unexpected, a series of vivid, almost otherworldly dreams that seeped into her waking thoughts like a quiet, persistent tide. For weeks, insomnia had haunted her nights. The more she tried to force sleep, the more elusive it became. One particularly restless evening, as she sat by her window watching the rain trace delicate patterns on the glass, Elena's mind began to wander. The soft patter of raindrops mingled with the distant hum of the city, creating a soothing backdrop that invited her to close her eyes and drift away. And so, with a sigh that carried both fatigue and anticipation, she surrendered to the pull of sleep. In her dreams, the world was transformed. Elena found herself in a realm that was at once familiar and impossibly surreal. A landscape where the sharp edges of reality softened into a hazy watercolor of memories and possibilities. The busy streets of the city gave way to quiet, moonlit avenues lined with ancient trees whose leaves shimmered silver in the nocturnal glow. Every step she took was accompanied by a gentle rustle, as if the night itself whispered secrets meant only for her. In this dreamscape, Elena encountered moments that felt intimately personal. At one point, she wandered into a small park where an old stone bench sat beneath a canopy of twinkling stars. Seated there was a figure, an echo of her younger self, radiating a quiet confidence and joy that had long since been overshadowed by the burdens of adult life. The younger Elena smiled warmly and extended a hand in invitation. In that silent moment, time slowed to a tender lull, and a soft melody filled the air. A melody that carried hints of lullabies sung in a long-forgotten language of the heart. As the dream unfolded, familiar scenes from her past began to merge with fragments of an alternate reality. Elena saw fleeting images of celebrations once cherished. The gentle clink of glasses at a family dinner, the soft murmur of friends sharing secrets beneath the soft glow of streetlights, and the delicate aroma of freshly baked bread wafting through a sunlit kitchen. These images were interwoven with abstract, dreamlike motifs. Drifting ribbons of light, petals carried by a slow-moving breeze, and reflections in quiet puddles that rippled with memories not entirely her own. The boundary between dream and reality grew increasingly fragile. In the early hours of the morning, Elena awoke with a lingering sense of wonder and a subtle disquiet. In her room, bathed in the muted light of dawn, she noticed small details that did not quite match her recollections. A framed photograph on her bedside table, once a snapshot of a joyous moment, now bore a gentle, almost imperceptible change. A smile that was just a bit more wistful, eyes that seemed to hold a secret longing. The dream had left its mark, as if it had rewritten a few threads of her personal tapestry. Intrigued and unsettled by these quiet shifts, Elena began to keep a journal by her bedside. Every night, before sleep claimed her, she would write down the fleeting images and sensations from her dreams. The act of writing became a ritual, a way to capture the ephemeral beauty of the midnight reverie that visited her so often. As she penned her thoughts, the pages filled with delicate descriptions. The soft hum of an unseen piano, the gentle caress of cool night air, and the echo of laughter that lingered like a comforting whisper in the silence. With each passing night, the dreams grew more intricate, weaving together moments of introspection with a quiet promise of renewal. In one recurring vision, Elena found herself standing at the edge of a tranquil lake, its surface smooth as glass under the light of a radiant full moon. In the water's reflection, she saw not only her own face but also hints of a life that felt deeper and more authentic. A life where every emotion was lived fully, without the constraints of routine and expectation. The lake seemed to mirror her inner world, inviting her to dive beneath the surface and explore the vast, uncharted depths of her own heart. In another dream, she wandered through a corridor lined with doors, each one slightly ajar. Beyond each door lay a different chapter of her past. A childhood memory of running barefoot through sunlit meadows, a bittersweet farewell at a train station, a moment of quiet triumph after a long struggle. The corridor was bathed in a gentle luminescence, each door emitting its own soft glow, as if inviting her to reclaim forgotten pieces of herself. With each step, Elena felt both a pang of nostalgia and a spark of hope, a reminder that the tapestry of her life was rich with every shade of emotion, from joy to sorrow, and everything in between. As the nights blended into one another, the dreamscape began to offer more than just a temporary escape from the pressures of the day. It became a sanctuary where Elena could reconcile the disparate parts of her identity: the ambitious professional and the wistful dreamer, the practical thinker and the tender-hearted believer in magic. The midnight reverie was not a place of confusion or fear, but a gentle realm where each whispered memory carried its own quiet truth. One particularly serene night, as the city outside lay hushed under a blanket of stars, Elena found herself back at the familiar park. This time, the young version of herself no longer sat alone on the stone bench. Instead, she was joined by figures from all the moments captured in her dreams, a mosaic of friends, family, and even fleeting strangers whose smiles had left an indelible mark on her soul. They gathered around her in a circle of soft light, sharing silent glances and unspoken understanding. In that moment, the boundary between past and present dissolved entirely, leaving Elena with the comforting realization that every experience, no matter how fleeting or altered by the mists of sleep, was an essential thread in the fabric of who she was. As the dream gently receded and dawn began to stretch its pale fingers across the horizon, Elena awoke with a heart both lighter and fuller. The gentle reverie of midnight had bestowed upon her a renewed sense of self, a quiet affirmation that even in the busiest of lives, there is time to remember, to feel, and to dream. The journal by her bedside now bore the soft inscriptions of her nocturnal journeys, each word a testament to the enduring beauty of memory and the transformative power of introspection. In the days that followed, Elena carried a subtle shift within her. The echoes of the midnight dreams colored her waking moments with gentle hues, a calm smile upon recalling a long-forgotten song, a soft sigh at the memory of a shared laugh, and the quiet knowledge that every fleeting moment of rest held the promise of rediscovery. The bustling city, with all its clamor and light, now whispered its own lullabies to her in the quiet corners of her mind. And so, every night as the city's heartbeat slowed and the world softened into the velvety embrace of darkness, Elena welcomed the call of the midnight reverie. With each step into that mysterious realm, she rediscovered the tender truths of her past, allowing them to guide her gently into the promise of a new day, one where the dreams of the night and the memories of the heart wove together in a serene, everlasting dance. In the gentle twilight of a quiet studio, nestled at the edge of a bustling city, Julian sat before a half-finished canvas. The room was filled with the soft scent of turpentine and the whisper of old, familiar melodies that seemed to linger from a time when art flowed as naturally as breath. Yet now, as dusk settled over the day, Julian's heart felt heavy with a quiet sorrow, a sense that the vibrant spark of inspiration was slowly, almost imperceptibly dimming. Julian had always believed that art was the mirror of the soul, a reflection of every emotion, every memory etched into the fabric of life. But recently, a strange unease had crept into those reflective surfaces. In the stillness of night, the artist's dreams became filled with visions of fading images, as if each memory, each masterpiece, was being gently erased by an unseen force. The boundaries between what was once vividly remembered and what was now slipping away blurred like watercolors in the rain. One cool autumn evening, after a long day of failed attempts to capture that elusive spark on canvas, Julian retired to a small reading nook in the studio. Wrapped in a soft, worn shawl, they opened a journal with pages yellowed by time and began to write. With each delicate stroke of the pen, the act of recording felt like a desperate attempt to hold on, to grasp even the fading edges of a memory before they disappeared completely. The quiet scratch of the pen, the low hum of an old radio in the corner, and the faint patter of rain against the window became a soothing symphony that cradled Julian in its soft embrace. That night, as sleep finally pulled Julian into its mysterious realm, the artist was drawn into a dream that felt both achingly familiar and infinitely strange. In this dreamscape, Julian found themselves standing in a vast, dimly lit gallery. The walls were lined with canvases depicting scenes from a life once lived. A youthful laugh captured in broad, joyous strokes, a tender farewell rendered in somber hues, a sunlit field that seemed to shimmer with every possibility. Yet, with every step Julian took, the images shimmered and began to blur, as if the brushstrokes were dissolving into the air. Each faded image whispered of memories that were slipping away, leaving behind only a wistful, ghostly trace. In the center of the gallery hung a large, ornate mirror, its surface mottled with time, yet still reflecting a familiar warmth. Drawn to it, Julian approached slowly. In the mirror's reflection, they saw themselves, not as they were now, but as they had been at the peak of their creative life, eyes alight with the fervor of inspiration and a gentle smile that spoke of endless possibilities. The reflection moved with a grace that belied the weight of lost time, each gesture a silent invocation of a forgotten masterpiece. Yet, as Julian reached out, the reflection began to fade, the vibrant colors dissolving into soft shades of gray, like memories receding with the tide. A soft, whispering voice filled the space, a voice that seemed to come from both the mirror and the recesses of Julian's own heart. "Embrace the fading," it murmured, each word a tender echo in the stillness. "Every reflection, every memory is not lost but transformed. In letting go, you allow the beauty of what was to give birth to what will be." In that profound moment, Julian realized that the fading was not an end, but a gentle metamorphosis, a quiet invitation to see that even as old images softened, new inspiration could take root in the fertile ground of remembrance. When Julian awoke the next morning, the soft light of dawn filtered through the studio's tall windows, casting long, gentle shadows upon the floor. With a deep, steadying breath, they returned to the canvas. Though the inspiration felt elusive, the memory of that dream lingered, a warm reminder that every creative spark is both ephemeral and eternal. Julian dipped a brush into a fresh palette of colors, each hue chosen with tender care, and began to paint. The strokes were deliberate yet fluid, blending the vivid vibrancy of the past with the soft uncertainty of the present. As days turned into weeks, the paintings began to tell a story of transformation and quiet resilience. The once faded reflections of old memories were now interlaced with new, shimmering details. A bold line here, a subtle splash of light there. Every canvas became a testament to the artist's journey, a journey of letting go and embracing the ever-changing nature of life. The gentle hum of inspiration grew louder with each brushstroke, and even on the quietest evenings, when the world outside was hushed by night, Julian found solace in the steady companionship of art and memory. In moments of stillness, Julian would return to the journal and reread the delicate lines scrawled in the dim glow of midnight. The journal became a cherished record, a bridge between the fading reflections of the past and the emerging promise of tomorrow. Each entry was imbued with the soft cadence of hope, a reminder that even when memories fade, their essence endures in every heartbeat, every whispered dream, and every new creation born from the quiet depths of the soul. And so, beneath the gentle watch of the moon and the soft murmur of the wind outside, Julian learned to welcome the fading reflection as a natural, necessary part of life's intricate dance. In the interplay between loss and renewal, between what once was and what could be, the artist discovered that every fading image was, in truth, a promise of rebirth, a gentle, enduring whisper that the spirit of creativity is timeless. Under the tender glow of each new dawn, the studio became a sanctuary of transformation, a space where old memories were honored and new dreams found their voice. In the soft brushstrokes on each canvas, Julian's heart spoke of resilience, of the beauty found in letting go, and of the endless cycle of reflection and rebirth that defines the creative soul. In a small town tucked away between rolling hills and quiet streams, the air buzzed with anticipation. Every autumn, the townspeople celebrated an unusual tradition known as the Dream Festival, a time when the veil between dreams and waking life was said to thin, and secrets long held in the recesses of the heart whispered softly into the night. Mara, a determined journalist with a penchant for uncovering hidden truths, arrived in the town with skepticism in her eyes and a notebook in hand. Known for her incisive reporting and clear, unflinching prose, she had covered many festivals and local traditions. Yet, nothing had prepared her for the strange undercurrent that pulsed beneath the surface of this one. The town itself seemed steeped in a quiet magic. Cobblestone streets wound between centuries-old buildings whose windows glowed with a soft, welcoming light. Lanterns swayed gently in the evening breeze, casting elongated shadows that danced across the walls. It was as if the whole place existed in a soft focus, a living painting where every brushstroke whispered a memory. Mara checked into a modest inn on the outskirts of the town. That first night, she could not shake the sensation that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Lying in bed, she listened to the gentle tapping of rain against the window and the soft murmur of distant voices, as if echoes of forgotten conversations floated on the night air. At dawn, the festival began in earnest. The town square was transformed into an open-air gallery of dreams. Stalls and small stages lined the square, each offering a glimpse into the inner lives of the townspeople. There were storytellers recounting vivid, surreal dreams, artists painting the fleeting images that danced behind closed eyes, and musicians whose gentle tunes seemed to carry the delicate cadence of sleep itself. Mara spent the morning interviewing locals about their experiences. Many spoke of dreams that had altered their perceptions, recollections that seemed to rewrite parts of their past, or hints of futures that shimmered like mirages. One elderly man recalled a dream of a lost love so detailed that he claimed it had changed his relationship with his own memories. A young woman described how her recurring visions had filled her with both hope and an inexplicable longing for a life she never knew. As the day wore on, Mara's initial skepticism began to waver. There was something undeniably profound in the way the dreams resonated with the people, binding them in a shared tapestry of silent stories. Yet, she remained determined to uncover a rational explanation, jotting down every detail with her characteristic precision. That evening, as twilight settled over the town, Mara attended a special gathering at an old stone amphitheater on the edge of a tranquil pond. Here, the most vivid dreams were to be shared, those that, the organizers claimed, held the key to understanding the festival's mysterious power. With a gentle hush falling over the audience, one by one, townspeople recounted their nocturnal adventures. Their voices were soft and measured, each tale unfolding like a delicate wisp of fog. Then, when it was Mara's turn to speak, an invitation extended by a kindly festival organizer, she hesitated. Despite her reservations, something deep within her urged her to share her own experiences from the nights prior. Though she had come to document the phenomenon, she couldn't deny the quiet stirrings of her own subconscious, where fragments of memories she couldn't quite place had begun to surface. "I have been awake to many thoughts," Mara began, her voice low and measured, "and though I have come here to seek answers, I find that the line between what is remembered and what is dreamt has grown exceedingly thin." Her words, spoken in the gentle acoustics of the ancient amphitheater, seemed to ripple through the crowd like a soft breeze. For a moment, the assembled faces reflected understanding and, perhaps, a shared secret of their own. As the night deepened, a sense of collective wonder took hold. In the stillness, when the last of the voices had faded into quiet murmurs, Mara found herself drawn to the pond. The water's surface lay still and dark, punctuated only by the shimmer of moonlight. Leaning against a stone, she closed her eyes and listened. In that moment of hushed solitude, the sounds of the town, the soft hum of conversation, the distant strains of music, even the rustle of the leaves, merged with the echoes of dreams. It was as if the very air vibrated with a silent promise, that every dream held a secret, every memory a hidden truth waiting to be revealed. In the days that followed, Mara's investigations took on an introspective tone. She began to record not only the factual details of the festival, but also her own internal journey. Night after night, as she returned to her small room in the inn, she wrote in her journal. The act of writing became a meditative practice, a way to capture the ephemeral images that danced on the edges of her mind. Sometimes, she would awaken with the lingering sensation of a dream, so vivid it felt like a memory. Other times, a soft melody or a fleeting image would accompany her thoughts, urging her to question the solidity of her own past. One evening, after an especially profound dream in which she found herself wandering through an endless field of gently swaying grasses under a sky painted with the colors of dusk, Mara sensed that she had crossed an unseen threshold. The dreams now came to her unbidden, as if the town itself were extending an invitation to look deeper into the recesses of her soul. The narratives of her interviews began to intertwine with her own inner visions, and she could no longer discern where the collective memory ended and her personal story began. Determined to find clarity, Mara sought out the oldest resident of the town, a woman named Agatha, whose eyes shone with the quiet wisdom of decades. In the fading light of a late afternoon, Agatha invited Mara into her modest home, a place filled with relics of a bygone era and the soft glow of candlelight. Over steaming cups of herbal tea, Agatha spoke of the festival's origins, a time when the town was founded by settlers who believed that dreams were a sacred bridge between the mortal and the divine. They believed, Agatha murmured in a voice that was as soft as a lullaby, that each night as we closed our eyes, the universe whispered to us its secrets. And in these whispers lay the truth of who we are. Over time, as the generations passed, the Dream Festival became a way to honor that gift, to let our hearts remember what our minds had forgotten. Agatha's words resonated deeply with Mara. In that gentle exchange, she recognized that the festival was not merely a curious anomaly to be dissected and reported. It was a living tradition, a delicate dance between memory and aspiration, where every dream, no matter how fragmented, was a thread in the intricate tapestry of life. As the festival drew to a close and the town slowly returned to its everyday rhythm, Mara felt transformed. Her initial mission had been to uncover a secret hidden behind collective dreams, but what she discovered was far more intimate. The festival had opened a window into the depths of the human experience, a reminder that our histories are written not only in the tangible moments of our lives, but also in the soft, elusive language of dreams. On her final night in the town, under a sky strewn with countless stars, Mara sat by the edge of the pond once more. The water, still and reflective, invited her to look within. In that tranquil moment, she closed her eyes and allowed the gentle whispers of the night to carry her away, into a realm where every secret was honored, every memory celebrated. The dreams, she realized, were not a threat to her sense of reality, but rather a gentle call to embrace the full spectrum of her identity. When morning came, Mara packed her belongings with a heart both heavy and hopeful. As she left the town, the soft murmur of the festival echoed behind her, a quiet promise that every dream, every whispered secret, would continue to live on in the hearts of those who believed in the gentle power of memory. In the end, her story was not simply a report for the newspaper, but a personal revelation, a reminder that within the delicate interplay of sleep and wakefulness lies a secret world where our most treasured truths reside. And so, with a notebook full of softly inscribed insights and a soul enriched by the mysterious dance of collective dreams, Mara stepped forward into the light of a new day, forever changed by the enchanting secret of the dreamscape. On the outskirts of a quiet town, nestled between the whispering trees and the slow-moving mist, stood an old Victorian house. It had been there for as long as anyone could remember, its grand architecture now softened by time, its windows clouded with the dust of forgotten stories. The house had been empty for years, though the townspeople often spoke of it as if it were alive. They claimed it had a presence, a pulse, an unseen force that watched, waited, and perhaps even dreamed. For as long as he had lived in town, Daniel had been drawn to the house. As a child, he would pause on his way home from school, staring up at the tall, ivy-clad structure, wondering who had once walked its halls. As an adult, the fascination remained, though he never dared step inside. But when he learned that the house was finally being sold, something within him stirred. It felt like a sign. Without hesitation, he placed an offer. The first few nights in the house were peaceful. Daniel moved through its vast rooms, tracing the faded wallpaper with his fingertips, listening to the way the wooden floors sighed beneath his steps. The house felt untouched, as if waiting for someone to awaken it from a deep sleep. Then the dreams began. At first they were subtle, a flickering image here, a whispered sound there. But soon the dreams became vivid, immersive. Daniel found himself wandering through the house, but it was not the house as he knew it now. The walls were pristine, the chandeliers glowed warmly, and voices filled the halls with laughter and conversation. He saw glimpses of people, strangers dressed in elegant 19th century attire, moving through the rooms as if caught in an eternal waltz. Each morning, he awoke with the feeling that something was shifting. The house felt different, as if it had been stirred from its slumber. The air was heavier, charged with an energy he couldn't quite place. One night, the dream took him deeper. He stood in the grand hallway, watching as a woman in a flowing white dress ascended the staircase. Her face was serene yet unreadable, her presence both inviting and unsettling. Daniel tried to call out to her, but no sound left his lips. She turned to him then, tilting her head ever so slightly, as if listening to something only she could hear. Then, in a voice as soft as silk, she whispered, "You are part of the dream now." Daniel woke with a start, his breath unsteady. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of moonlight seeping through the curtains. But something was different. The air smelled of old perfume, a scent that did not belong to him. The chandelier in the hallway, which had been broken since before he moved in, now cast a dim, flickering light. Day by day, the boundaries between dream and reality blurred. He would set an object down in one room, only to find it elsewhere in the morning. Dust vanished from surfaces overnight, and sometimes, when he listened closely, he could hear footsteps in the halls, soft, deliberate steps, moving just out of sight. Yet, strangely, Daniel felt no fear. The house did not wish to harm him. It only wished to be remembered. The dreams continued, revealing more of the past with each passing night. He saw a family, a father with kind eyes, a mother humming a lullaby, and a child laughing as she ran through the corridors. He saw dinner parties illuminated by candlelight, music drifting through the air like a gentle tide. But always there was the woman in white, lingering at the edge of his vision. One evening, unable to resist, Daniel followed her. In the dream, she led him to a door he had never seen before. It stood at the end of a long, dimly lit hallway. Slowly, she reached for the handle and pushed it open. Inside was a small, forgotten room. Dust motes swirled in the golden light filtering through lace curtains. A rocking chair sat in the corner, swaying ever so slightly as if someone had just been there. On the floor lay an old leather-bound journal. Daniel reached for it. The moment his fingers brushed the cover, the dream ended. He awoke with his heart pounding, the name from the journal echoing in his mind. Eleanor. Compelled by an inexplicable force, he searched the house the next morning, retracing the steps from his dream. And then, at the end of a narrow hallway, he saw it, a door that had not been there before. His hands trembled as he turned the handle. The room was exactly as it had been in his dream. The rocking chair, the curtains, the dust lingering in the air like a whisper of time itself. And on the floor, untouched for decades, lay the journal. He picked it up, flipping through its delicate pages. It belonged to Eleanor Winthrop, the last known resident of the house. In her entries, she wrote of dreams, dreams that mirrored his own. She wrote of seeing a man in her visions, a man from the future who would come to live in her home. A man she would guide, just as the house had guided her. The house dreams, she had written in the final, fading lines. And in its dreams we live on. Daniel sat in silence, the weight of it all settling over him like a warm, familiar embrace. He was not alone. He had never been alone. The house had always been waiting, not just for someone to live within its walls, but for someone to remember. That night, as he drifted into sleep, he felt no distinction between dream and wakefulness. He simply let the house carry him, its memories unfolding like pages in a book, its whispers filling the spaces between his thoughts. And as the dream took hold, he stepped forward, not as an intruder, but as a part of the story, as a part of the dream. Caleb had never been the kind of person to doubt his own memory. He prided himself on remembering even the smallest details, where he left his keys, the name of a barista he met only once, the exact words from a conversation months ago. His mind was a well-ordered archive, and he trusted it completely. That was why, when he woke up one morning with the distinct feeling that something was missing, he couldn't shake the unease. It wasn't an object he had misplaced or a task he had forgotten. It was something bigger, something that clawed at the edges of his thoughts, just out of reach. A name. He could feel it lingering in the back of his mind, the shape of it pressing against his consciousness like a word on the tip of his tongue. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't grasp it. It slipped through his mental fingers, dissolving the moment he reached for it. The feeling haunted him throughout the day. He caught himself pausing mid-sentence, as if the name would suddenly present itself. He found himself staring blankly at his reflection in the mirror, searching his own eyes for an answer. He even tried writing down every name he could think of, hoping one would trigger recognition. But none did. That night, as he lay in bed, exhaustion weighed heavily on his body, but his mind remained restless. The name was there. It had always been there. So why couldn't he remember? And then he dreamed. In the dream, he was standing on a street he didn't recognize. The air smelled of rain, though the pavement was dry. Dim streetlights flickered, casting long, shifting shadows. He turned a corner and found himself in front of a bookstore. Its wooden sign swayed gently in the breeze, though there was no wind. The windows were dark, but he could see movement inside. Someone standing between the shelves, just out of view. Something in his chest tightened. He knew this place. Stepping forward, he reached for the door. The bell above it jingled softly as he entered, and the scent of old paper and dust filled his lungs. The store was quiet, save for the faint hum of a song playing on a distant radio. And then he saw her. A woman stood at the far end of the store, her back turned to him as she ran her fingers along the spines of books. His heart stuttered in his chest. He knew her, but when she turned to face him, he realized he didn't. Her features were familiar and foreign all at once, shifting like reflections on rippling water. He tried to focus on her face, but his mind refused to hold on to the image. "Caleb," she said softly. His breath caught. There was something in the way she spoke his name, like it was both a greeting and a goodbye, like it was the last time she would ever say it. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman tilted her head slightly, a sad smile on her lips. "You already know." The dream shattered. Caleb jolted awake, his pulse hammering in his ears. His room was silent, the air still. But the unease from the dream clung to him, wrapping around his ribs like invisible vines. He reached for his phone, opening his contacts. His fingers hovered over the screen, scrolling through names that felt suddenly hollow. He was looking for something, someone, but he didn't know who. Frustration tightened in his throat. He closed his eyes, forcing himself to focus. The name was there. It had to be. And then, like a whisper slipping through the cracks of his mind, he heard it. Eleanor. His breath hitched. The name sent a shiver through him, like hearing a melody from a childhood lullaby long forgotten. But no matter how much he repeated it, no memory surfaced to explain why it mattered. The next few days were filled with an unbearable sense of loss. He searched old emails, social media, even asked friends if they knew someone named Eleanor. But no one did. It was as if she had never existed. And yet, every night, she returned in his dreams. Each time, she was waiting for him in the bookstore. Sometimes she was reading, sometimes simply standing there, watching him with that same sad smile. And every time he would ask for her name, and every time she would say the same thing. "You already know." Caleb began to feel the effects of his unraveling mind. The days blurred together. Conversations felt distant. It was as if the real world was fading, while Eleanor, was becoming more vivid. One evening, desperate for answers, he scoured his apartment for anything that might connect him to her. And then he found it, an old book, tucked away in the back of his bookshelf. He didn't remember buying it, didn't even recognize the title. But when he opened it, a piece of paper fluttered to the ground. A receipt, from a bookstore. The name on it sent a chill through him. Eleanor's Books. His pulse thundered in his ears. The address was in a city he had never visited. Or had he? The thought sent a wave of nausea through him. His own memory was betraying him, rewriting itself in real time. Without hesitation, he grabbed his keys. The drive was long, but Caleb barely registered the passing miles. The name burned in his mind, a quiet mantra pulling him forward. When he finally arrived, the city was draped in twilight, the streets humming with the distant sounds of life. And there it was, the bookstore from his dreams. His stomach twisted. The sign above the door swayed gently, though there was no wind. The windows were dark, but something inside, something unseen, was waiting. He stepped forward, his fingers grazing the handle. And then, just before he pushed the door open, a voice, soft and familiar, whispered in his ear. "You already know." The door swung open, and Caleb remembered.